And welcome back to JKLive here at Citizen Television. The bench is on fire. Dr. Barack with the two art Molukas in the house, Professor Peter Kagwanja and Angela Mbitho. We're talking about the state of our nation, folks. That's right, we have lots of faults, we have lots of wrongs that are happening. Can we right those wrongs? Well, let's keep talking. Angela, your last poll. When was it? And did you ask some of these questions that we're asking tonight?
Yes. Our last poll was tail end of April. And indeed, it is our State of the Nation poll. So we asked the pertinent questions which have, kind of like guided the discussion today. The first one, obviously, is, the direction the country is taking. And as we were speaking, I just thought to myself, even with the mea culpa, that perhaps our president is very aware that, the mood in the country is not great. And so when you see a leader coming out and saying, I am sorry if I have wronged you, forgive me, it is because he perhaps is acutely aware that, majority of Kenyans think that the country is headed in the wrong direction. And probably also is aware of the reasons. The first one being inflation and economic conditions, unemployment. And the third one, so the first one is high cost of living. Majority of Kenyans still can't make ends meet. The shrinking wallet is real. The cost of basic necessities. I checked, with colleagues today that even the cost of something as basic as unga has gone up again. And because taxation took effect last year and, sent shock waves into people's wallets, most people moving from, perhaps a tax bracket of 5 to 8,000 in terms of tax to almost double, but not an increase, not a commensurate increase in their income. Because business has not been great. So nobody, have you gotten a salary? No. Nobody has gotten a salary increase. And so, cognizant of these issues and the sentiment that, the high cost of living and managing inflation is not been as easy as perhaps hitherto was expected to be the case when they were touting, the bottom-up economy and the hustler, movement. And secondly, the issue of unemployment, youth unemployment, is really a dire problem. And hence, wanting to somewhat resonate with the youth. I am not surprised that he did what he did. But third and most importantly is, the issue that Kenyans really are now beginning to talk about a lot more, which is bad politics. Bad politics encompassing poor governance, so corruption, ethnicity, ethnic-based, politics, monetization of our politics. I think, Prof, you mentioned something like that, that, with money, almost anything is possible. And we can see how it's happening, perhaps, within the different political circles. And generally, I think weaponization of the law, which is what we discussed before and what is happening to Rose. So all these things, then, consolidate the feeling and the sentiment by Kenyans that things are not quite great. And it would be, naive to think that a president like ours, who is quite well versed, would not be aware. And so, yes, it may have been ironic, if we were saying that in the prayer breakfast, he shouldn't perhaps have used those terms. But I look at it from the point of view that perhaps knowing what is happening, there was a part of him that wanted to actually make truce with Kenyans. Cognizant as well that in a couple of years, not in a couple of 2 years to be precise, he goes back to the ballot. And he will need
26 months.
26 months. He will need their vote.
Yeah.
So that is one of the key issues. The other thing that we, of course, asked about is, and that's very closely linked to the key issues that plague the country today, is the same issues. Over and above these are things that are pivoted on, the beta pillars. The issues as we speak, Kenyans have issues, very, very serious issues with health. Yeah. Health is a big problem. Mm-hmm. And so people can't quite understand how to use and how effective SHA is going to be within their, health, mainstreaming their health in their lives. The other thing that is as a big issue is plaguing a lot of parents right now is CBC and education. It has become a thorn in the backside of most parents. Yeah. Is it CBC or CBE? How many books are they going to have to change? The mental state of their children in terms of just knowing whether things will stabilize, there will be some sort of equilibrium in terms of curricula as we move forward is something that is plaguing many parents. And then of course for the management of the schools is the capitation. Yeah. Isn't there a school that got in Seme that got 87 shillings?
87.
How is that possible? Somebody laughed and said that's perhaps the amount you need to withdraw. So there are those real issues, and of course the issues of poverty and food security. These then become the fundamentals of the beta pillars.
And Prof, coming on the heels of what Angela just said,
yep.
And I don't want to sound like I'm too overly, what's the word, that I'm rooting for this particular scenario, but a lot of people have compared 2027 to 2007 if we don't watch out. There's a lot of comparisons.
I think it's worse.
You think
I think it's worse.
Worse?
Yes, because, and I'm not basing this on Kenya. I'm basing this on the history and experience of the world. I wrote last year at the heart of the heat of Gen Z uprising, and I said the revolution has started. And I went ahead as a historian, political scientist, to define what a revolution is. A revolution does not take place in one day or 1 month or 1 year. It takes a long period. The American Revolution that gave birth to the society we call America today took about 10 years, 17?
It was slightly longer than that.
Than that. The French Revolution, the famous of all of them, also took a long time. Yep. Our own revolution here at home, to get the order we are in now, took us 10 years, from 1950. From 1950 to 1960, if you wish. I'm not talking about foreign countries. I'm talking about Kenya. In order to move from the government of the Happy Valley, the
1947.
Yes.
To 1963.
To 1963. That is the revolution that gave birth to the Kenya we are enjoying today. Now, the second revolution, you can date it up to around 1984. The Kenyans.
I would actually start in 1982.
Sure.
After the coup.
After the coup. Now, it slowly went that way. The good thing, and you have to give credit to Mzee Moi, that he yielded. After a lot of pressure, he would give in. So he let the steam out, and we were able to get to 2002. But the revolution was not complete. So it is during the Mkatenusu when we managed at least to change the constitution. Remember, we are the first country to change this constitution in a peaceful way and in a lifetime of a country. In other countries, constitutions are changing through very bloody situations. We changed ours peacefully. But even then, we've not respected it. Now, why do I say we might face the worst if we don't change our steps or our ways?
Right.
It is because this revolution is not against a foreigner. It is against ourselves. And it is against a generation that's a minority. The youth, if you gauge them from 40 down, we are talking about 75% of our population. And when you look at the older people now who in the 50s and there, above that, we're really talking about 5% of the population.
Yes.
So it is 75 to 80% against a small minority of people. Yes, the small minority is the propertied, because these are our fathers and grandfathers who had the big estates and which they have to share with us. But the reality of the matter is that we are in a worse-off situation, because if we don't watch our ways and change and look at our future, the situation, at least 2007, we could reconcile ourselves. There were among our people who said, no, let's talk. Because it was intergenerational, intrageneration. It was within one generation. It's Kibaki versus Raila, it is, and so on. And a few agitation by younger people there. But it's about the same. Now, this is our children, some of them calling us grandparents, who are fighting us. Who is going to call us to order when that happens?
Basically, 2007 was largely a situation that assumed an inter-ethnic conflict. And this definition of that space within ethnic prisms had begun in the late 80s. Okay, it had been there, fairly mild, sometimes erupting to the surface. But from around 1988, with the Mlolongo elections, and then the agitation now for space, political space to be freed, being led by people like Ken Matiba, people like Charles Rubia, who are then apprehended and locked up. But then the spring well of uprising and dissent doesn't die. You have got Jaramogi, you have got Ngodo Akarioki, you have got Professor Oyugi and others. You have got people like Georgia Nyona, Karunganga and others. So as the push then is intensifying, and Professor, I think I agree with you completely, President Moi understood that sometimes he has got to release the valves a bit for the pressure to come out. He puts in place the George Saitoti Committee, which brings a report that is doctored. They are lying through the teeth, telling President Moi in Kasarani that Kenyans are happy with the situation the way it is. And I think if it was the present dispensation, it would have accepted the Saitoti report. But Moi says, no, give them, allow them. Of course, there's a bit of pressure from the international community. They're saying you have to free that space. But where is all this leading to? It's leading to the Kapkatet Declaration of 1991. And that Kapkatet Declaration polarizes the country completely along ethnic lines. You have got then the bloodletting of 1991, 1992, 1993, all the way to 1997. 2007, it hits climax. Even young people are seeing themselves as, we belong to this community, we belong to this tribe. The fundamental difference is now that this thing is taking on the character of a class struggle. A class struggle. And you have the youth who have declared that we are tribeless, we are partyless, we are leaderless. They are seeing, in fact, they are, where they are wrong as a student of social science is that they are actually not tribeless. They are a new tribe. And this new tribe cuts across the traditional tribes.
Dr. Is this sustainable?
Oh, absolutely. You know, the thing called a revolution and revolutions in world history, and I've sat here before and told you that I'm a student of revolutions in world history, and Professor here is also a student of revolutions in world history. When the ripe moment has come, it does not even need a leader. The Russian Revolution that brought the Bolsheviks into power, Lenin and his friends had given up. They thought that the revolution had already collapsed.
Right.
Then the uprising just came from beneath, because revolutions are not imposed from above. And President Ruto was telling us about bottom up. This begin like sometimes uprising. Look at the Romanian case that took out Nicolae Ceausescu and Ivona Ceausescu in 1989. And it started with a shoe like the one that
in Tunisia
we saw the other day, the Tunisian and Arab Spring. These things just happen. And so when you are in power, don't listen to the sycophants. The people who are telling you, like I saw an MP, this one who puts on a red cap, saying that the problem around here is that there's too much freedom. Listen to those kinds of people at your own risk, peril, and doom.
We have been told that part of the greatest achievement of the Kibaki era was to expand the middle class. And during the constitution-making process, that another step was taken to expand that middle class, so that people who used to be called councillors and were poor people, who would eat hands out. I mean, what do you call them? You're eating from the hands of politicians, other politicians, now became their full-fledged middle class as MCAs and so on. And therefore we had a huge middle class that time. The problem now is that the way we are running the economy, the middle class has shrunk so much. And internationally, it is known, the defenders of a peaceful order,
it's the middle class.
It's the middle class. That because they have everything to lose in chaos. Revolutions are not something you would wish to have.
Absolutely not.
If you really have to do something, don't encourage revolution. Why? Because revolutions are chaotic, and they come in two ways. The wave of anarchy, then an attempt to restore order, and finally tyranny, because only tyranny can restore order. And therefore, we don't want to get there, and I wish the leadership could listen and know that we are in a more complex situation than we have ever been. And in a colonial struggle, we knew the British, and we were saying they have to go. So we knew the enemy, and we united. In the second liberation, we knew the government, the oppressor, the party, and we say Kanu, and every man will go. Now this time round, talking about the people's talking about going are our own children saying that we must go ourselves. And it is very, very interesting that what Barack is saying, that there is a crass element to this. But more importantly, I think this is what we are missing. We are about to become the first country to face a generational war, an intergenerational war. You only find it in writings of Gogo wa Thiong'o about a mythical past, when the older younger people rose up against the older people. And it was chaotic. And that is what we are finding ourselves in this. You've heard in Kikuyu about Iregi. The Iregi were young men in their 18 years to around 25 years who told their fathers enough is enough. And they rose up. It's in the myth of the Kikuyu origin. And from that time, the Kikuyu community was never the same. they had to reconstitute themselves thoroughly to deal with the inclusion of the young in governance, in the traditional governance. And here, we are facing a similar revolution, which is not largely class. It is largely intergenerational.
Angela, when these gentlemen talk like this, does that mean, are we on a tipping point right here? Is that where we are?
I think when you have a majority consistently thinking things are going wrong, the writing is on the wall. I mean, there are also, that's one. So yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it's consistently been the case since 2002 to 2022, consistently. No, in the sense that whilst Kenyans are assertive and perhaps even aggressive, we are quite responsible.
Which Kenyans? You are talking about
which Kenyans? No, Barack, let me finish. Our children stem from us. And the one thing that I actually observe, because I work with these children, is that chaos does not beget them. This is as a function of seeing things broken. And indeed, as Prof is saying, perhaps the better way is to actually, find a solution where our institutions of governance, the presidency, realizes where we are at and stems this by perhaps just keeping his word. You're looking at me like that's not possible, but this is a person we have elected.
I'm not saying anything.
Barack is looking at me, he's removing his glasses. And so I am giving the challenge to this office holder to say we are not ready for a revolution. People, and Prof is right, and by the way, I too am a student of history in the Department of History, Nairobi University. So we share something in common. Revolutions are ugly. Maybe our children don't understand it.
Absolutely.
Because I have a Gen Z.
The revolutionaries, if you look at the Paris mobs in 1789, they did not need to understand a revolution. When your plates are empty, and I'm glad you say you work with them, maybe those are not the ones we are
No, but the plates don't have to be empty, Barack, is my point.
The plates don't have.
And we have people that we have elected. They have the responsibility of ensuring that they do fill up the plates of our children. They do provide opportunity for our children to get gainful employment, whether that is, informal employment or informal employment or even as entrepreneurs. This is the role that government has to facilitate.
The thing called a revolution is a typhoon, which,
of course it is.
which nobody understands, which nobody even expects. And when it happens, it comes with a certain force of spontaneity. And those who are, for the time being, in power will usually do very well to listen to voices that are telling them that something is happening, that there's a wind blowing, there's a big typhoon, and you still have the opportunity to do something about it. That this wind is going to be disastrous. But if you stay there and you say, like some English king said, I'm the king of England, I will stop the waves, they will not sweep me, then they will sweep you away. And so the first thing that we need to do in this country is to stem this splurging of resources, stop this running around the country that is not adding any value to anything, stop this grand corruption, channel that money into creation of productive jobs, productive employment, so that it can generate further wealth, and then democratize the space. Do not criminalize dissent. Don't silence voices that are telling you what could save you. And finally, refrain completely from any thought that you could manipulate the next general and presidential election to favor you. Allow it, leave it to the forces of the democratic marketplace to define the outcome. If you win free and fair, you win, and you'll be seen to have won. If you lose, accept to go.
One point addition to that, just to put it in a more broader context. War, we are told, is in the minds of men and women, of course. And that is the basis of the United Nations. What is governing us is a very simple idea that if you are going to deal with war, you don't deal with it by arming yourself and getting forces and intelligence and everybody to do everything by monitoring everybody. Yeah. You're putting in a country in a very risky situation. What you do is to concentrate on changing perception in people's minds and bringing out about change. And that change must be developmental. That is why every other unit, every other agency of the United Nations is about development. The development of a child, the caring for the refugee, the caring for government, and that. Why? Because only people who have eaten to their full will stop fighting. If you have nothing on your plate, it doesn't matter what kind of talking you bring here. The reality is that, so the restiveness in our country today is about economic desperation. Now, you can talk about houses, you can talk about other things, but three things are basic. And these are not new to us. We know, if you are a true Kenyan, born and brought up in this land, you know that we have only three enemies. One is ignorant. Put our education right. The next is poverty. Put our economy and development processes right. The third one is our physical health. We got to be strong to work. Therefore, put our hospitals together. Don't begin telling us how many stories you're building up and how many things we're doing up if those three things are not fixed to the satisfaction, total satisfaction of the citizens. Don't write wrong speeches about what you have achieved. Let the people tell you that you have done well in health, you have done well in education, and you are steering the economy right. You will never hear of the language that is talking about revolutions. No, you'll never hear it. You can only have a revolution of happiness.
Seems like these people never read Lee Kuan Yew, Dr. Right? From third world to first. They never read that. Maybe they should go back and read it.
Lee Kuan Yew was very strict. The first thing was about corruption.
Yeah, correct.
That you steal, he deals with you. It doesn't matter that you are his brother, you are his sister. The law applied the same equally for everybody. That must be done. But they should also read John Ruganda, The Floods. Ruganda is saying, the floods are coming, the floods. And they are not taking any.
One's listening.
One line I like about Lee Kuan Yew, and which is totally missing in this country of ours, and we need to get the basics. I know when we speak, people like me say, oh, professor and others, and it's like looking for jobs. But no country has ever, every country that has ever succeeded is the one that put its best and ablest in offices. If you put people you favor, people whose noses you like, and people who smile to you better, then you are using the wrong criteria. Get the best and the ablest in your country.
We're talking meritocracy.
That is the merit, that the society must be based on merit. And the moment you do that, even this problem we call ethnicity disappears. It will disappear because services are delivered by those who can deliver them. Don't take Professor Kagwanja to go and head the Kenyan shipping line, because I talk well. Put the best sailor we have, and our ships will sail well. But here we have a problem, Jeff. During elections, I'm reminded, we voted the sweet seller or the caddy seller, because he tells us that the dentist is going to give pain to you. Blaming the dentist, and he's dealing with your problem.
Selling it.
Yes, the sweet seller sold the sweets and destroyed your teeth. And then the sweet seller come to tell you, you know, the doctor is going to give you pain and I'm going to give you sweetness. You know, so our democracy is the one that is deceiving, because it's not delivering to us the ablest and, you know, the best to man this society. Why did Kibaki succeed? Look at who was who in Kibaki's government. Start with Raila Odinga himself and his troop, Anyang' Nyong'o and others. You come to this other side, you could literally tell the people in Kibaki's government by their names. Whether they are from the north or the south, you knew them. And they are men and women of competence. That's why we succeeded. There's no other magic that Kibaki performed. And he did not care whether you are from...
Allow them to work.
Yes, and you allow the people to use their skills. And that's why Anyang' Nyong'o, who was in ODM, was able to give a PNU government Vision 2030. He worked from a person with there. Because without Anyang' and others like him, how would we have gotten Vision 2030 if we stuck to our views that these are ODM fellows and these are PNF fellows, these are these fellows? If we stuck to those silos, how could we have gotten that? We've got to put our best foot forward as a country.
Absolutely.
And that's the only way we can avoid the revolution as articulated by my brother here.
Absolutely. Folks, lots and lots of feedback on our magic wall. Ayub, I think...
Yes, so to go through a few, we are hurtling towards Thursday. Nicey says, TZ immigration officers forced me to pay $100 at Kirumi Mara with East African passport. The East African community is only on paper. Angela had mentioned that. Mboya_Arnold says, young Africans are rising, demanding justice, jobs and democracy. Why do most East African governments respond with fear instead of support? Isn't it time to trust the youth with the future? It's Kipleting says, it's highly regrettable how Kenyans were handled by Tanzanian authorities. The allegations of foreign interference in their country affairs has no basis. This is not what East African community goal envisioned to do. The _Sambu says, JKL tonight isn't just a talk show, it's a symposium of ideas. No noise, no cloud chasing, just brilliant minds unearthing the truths, shaping perspectives and reminding us that intellect still has a place in our public discourse. Tonight, wisdom flows like poetry.
Wow. Deep.
Wow.
Well done.
Crispina Saddam says the government should take advantage of citizens' digital skills to freely share more information and receive feedback to boost public participation. Active citizenry is necessary to achieve maximum inclusivity, which is key, to accelerate development. Mapao Gayo says, we are living in an interesting country. Individuals who are celebrating freedom is here, the ones who are crying for justice today. Kenya is alive with possibilities. Kendi Mboy says, Ambido nails it. Rosenjeri's arrest for dissent is a head-scratcher, since when he's speaking out a crime in Kenya. If we are jailing people for opinions, I'm in trouble for hating Monday mornings. Let's protect our rights to disagree. Okelo Mwalimu says, can the panel comment on the dangers posed by reckless sentiments by the former DP, especially on foolish MPs in caveats and Xmas party in caveats? What's their view on the idea that older politicians have hijacked Gen Z's agenda and are using it as a springboard for enhancing their political scoreboard? Yeah. Briefly, Angela?
Well, I couldn't agree more with those sentiments. I think Kenyans are speaking loud and clear. You know, on issues of foreign policy, East African community needs to be, you know, relooked at. I think when we look at the issue of Rose Njeri, It's clearly an unfortunate situation which should be wished away as quickly as possible. And indeed, with regards to everything else that Kenyans espouse for, I think the leaders should listen.
Yeah. Prof, you agree?
Yes, I agree. I think what we are lacking, Jeff, is what you can call public hygiene. You can tell me to go to hell, and I look forward to the trip, and even ask you to accelerate it because of the way you have put it. I think our politicians and our leadership is beginning to use a language that is intended to hurt rather than to change the minds and the ideas of somebody. So don't never call me foolish, because if I am foolish, God knew why he created me foolish. Appreciate my foolishness, because that's why I am foolish. Because God wished me to be foolish.
Right.
So never use the word foolish. Just tell me what I am supposed to do and I'm not doing. Because you cannot, it is easier.
Yes.
And you don't have to use big words that leave your tongue bleeding after you pronounce them. Just keep it simple and clear. That's what democracy is about.
Sorry, you agree?
To a certain extent. You know, foolish is a small word which is actually used by people of that inclination.
Small minds.
But Rigathi Gachagua is a rough-edged politician, some kind of field marshal, a bulldozer of types. What he says is true, but it could be repackaged differently. We said here a little earlier on that the hustler revolution is eating its children. It has eaten Rigathi Gachagua. It has eaten Gloria Magoma Oruoba. It is eating other people. It's going to eat Kimani Ichung'wah. It has eaten Ndindi Nyoro, and it will eat many more other people. And maybe that's what Rigathi Gachagua should have told the MPs without calling them names. He needs to come to my class of speech therapy.
Nice sales pitch.
Yatanian says, while we gauge the political weather forecast, it would be unfair to deem it completely doom and gloom. There are significant successes of this administration. For example, the sustainability of the Kenya shillings against the dollar, and most importantly, in my opinion, the Social Health Authority is now fully operational. Okay. Ogelo Mwalimu says, can the panel also comment? I think there's a repeat here. Orut Wasam says, we have this African community, but Kenya is the only country which stands and makes the community alive, because in Kenya, the people accept and accord people from other communities the freedom to live as if they were Kenyans without profiling. Bore Collins says, there is a rising wave of awakening across East Africa with a renewed push for justice, and Kenya is at the heart of it. A movement is stirring and the region is beginning to respond. This is the moment to stay alert and engaged. Tanzania didn't see it coming. The last one, Mzalendo Alenga, says, we fall into governance deficiencies when leaders assume we are their children. They infantilize citizens and forget their children. In caveats are those in their homes. The rest are citizens. We must dismantle this hierarchy before the revolution of the youth does.
Good points, good points. Wonderful points. Folks, before we get to closing statements, real quick, someone to comment on IEBC. Looks like it's been reconstituted. Looks like it's, you know, going to be up and running anytime soon. Is it time? Is this it?
But I think we need to settle our minds on this, that we will always complain about IEBC. I've been in this country doing elections for a long time, and IEBC has always been the issue. We can never agree on the referee. So I think what we need to look at is whether our institutions, or other institutions, because IEBC is just one in the whole chain of election. It is the overall, but essentially we need to, because we can never have a situation where we don't have people who know people. When we talked about the Serera 4 and the others, somebody would say they are linked to so and so. Because unless we get a commission that is not made of Kenyans, we'll always have our own view.
Absolutely.
I think what we need to do is to call upon the leadership to know that the basis of a stable democracy is a peaceful transition. And when you have a credible IEBC, you are guaranteeing the country a stable, a peaceful transition. And therefore, the next generation can say that election was peaceful. Otherwise, if you manipulate IEBC and manipulate the electoral process, you are simply undermining a peaceful transition. And therefore, you are pushing the country to the edge. Please don't do it.
Absolutely. The edge of the abyss. All right, closing thoughts. I'm going to start with you.
I think I'll just hinge on IEBC because it's so critical. What is the message from, public opinion? Huge trust deficit. I think it's probably a foregone conclusion that we will have a commission in place soon. We need one. There's so much. They will be coming in with a very full plate. But there are certain things that Kenyans are very, interested in the IEBC doing. So let me read out the recommendations from our latest poll. The first one is, one, ensure that you are free from political influence. That's very critical. That as you start working and you will have a very full plate, please ensure that you are fully independent and, void of political influence. Work on election technology and security in earnest as you go in. Please ensure that you do that which Rose Njeri was trying to do, which is public participation, and ensure that, you have the public involvement. Strict enforcement of electoral laws is, very critical. And, start by, having a good calendar of, activities that should start with, effective and timely voter education, strengthen collaboration with stakeholders, and definitely don't come crying in the last minute that you don't have funding, just before elections. So a full plate for IEBC commissioners as they come in, but they should be very cognizant that as of now, Kenyans don't trust them fully, to be competent enough to conduct a free and fair election come 2027. And so they will need to first and foremost reinstill that confidence in us.
And there's other elections in between, right? Where
and they have a full plate. The by-elections are there. I don't know whether they will be able to deal with the boundaries.
The boundaries,
The time is, so there's a lot.
Yeah. Prof, closing thoughts.
I think when the government talk about doing some things, and that comment was made by one of our listeners here, and it talks about that, there is something called prioritizing. And a nation like this of over 50 million people, you've got to prioritize. What are the urgent issues today? I don't think it's not people sleeping outside, because I'm not sure there are many of us sleeping outside. And even those who are sleeping outside now can sleep at the bridges. There are 3 people who sleep on that Thika Road bridge. I always find them, and I feel very bitter as a Kenyan. God forgive us. You got to just do those 3 things. Straighten up our education and make it accessible and painless. Let us not wake up every morning and feel punished by the school fees of our children, or to be punished by their presence at home because we cannot pay school fees. It doesn't matter what subsidies or what miracle you perform, but please make education affordable and accessible to us. Second, let somebody not stay in the house sick because they have no money to pay for medicine. Straighten up our education. This is not about numbers, how many levels you have created, how many. It's about practical reality. I went to the hospital, I was treated, I'm here home, I'm healed. Finally, consult on the economy. Nobody has the ultimate knowledge about how to run the economy. Because if people have no money in their pockets, they can never love you. If children are sleeping hungry at home, fathers mean nothing to them. It's a hard reality, it's a painful reality, but that's the truth. So when you do a whole list of the achievements that we have made, and these three things have not been resolved, that's a pipe dream. It's whistling in the wind.
Whistling in the wind.
Yep.
Dr. Ari, you get the last word.
Yes. It's never too late. Even now, it's not too late. President Mwai Kibaki sat in State House, which is just across the road from here. And that is where President William Ruto operates from. He sat in State House and worked for this country, and the country could feel the work that was being done.
Yeah.
And President William Ruto can go back to State House, choose, as Professor says, 2-3 things that he can do, 2-3 things that are going to create employment, that are going to generate wealth, that are going to be productive. Now, when you want to look at my president, you see a president who is cornered, that the things which he was criticizing are the things which he's doing. That he said Kazi Mitaani was a diversionary, hopeless, useless thing. Now that is where the desperation is taking. And we know Kazi Mitaani is going to give palliative relief. It's like taking aspirin, but it's not going to cure the problem.
No.
Because it's not going to reproduce wealth. And His Excellency, the President, could focus on 2-3 things that can generate employment, can be productive, and let him sit in State House and get off cars, rooftops, and say he's uniting the country because he's not unity between himself and Mr. Odinga is not equivalent to uniting Kenyans. In fact, it can only unite Kenyans by default in their belief that he's not doing the right things, in their belief that the country is on the wrong trajectory. Then very finally, IBC, I think the sooner it is constituted, however defective it may appear now, better for the country, because we are so far behind. And those ladies and gentlemen had better have taken lessons from the past, from Kivuitu, from Isaac Hassan, from Chesoni, and from my relative who died and was buried last year, Chebukati. They better take lessons from those ones and know that regardless of what the appointing authority is, fidelity to the task is everything. And for those in power, level playing ground, play by the rules. If you win, and it is seen that you have won. If you have lost, never mind that they've been telling you 1 term.
No.
Take your 1 term and go home.
Just like that. More messages coming in.
Yes, Dr. Kalua Isaac Green.
What do you say?
Watching from Kitui County.
Yeah.
Says he has enjoyed the show. Big fun and great minds.
He says great minds.
Thank you.
Ecopreneur. And,
And I've got my good friend Maina Kageni. He says, Barack Muluka, true patriot right there.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you, Maina.
Is Maina saying the rest of us? And
No, it's all right, it's all right.
Barack Muluka is a metaphor for this bench.
No,
It's a metaphor.
Kageni, you get a drink. I'll empower him.
You guys are great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Conversation we have to have over and over again, huh?
Thank you.
We have to have it because I keep saying the moment we stop talking,
Yep.
the moment we start fighting,
Yep.
and you don't want to go down that slippery slope.
No.
That's why we have
It's not
folks
for
like this
us.
on the bench, folks. That's why we have our country called Kenya. We have no other country to go to. Think about it. Think about it when you sleep tonight, get up tomorrow, and go to work and go about your business. There's only one country to do that. Thanks so much for being a part of this show. Remember, if it's Wednesday, it's those 3 letters on the keyboard that follow each other. JKL. Thanks so much for being a part of the show. Good night, good luck. God bless Kenya.